Mr. Lazzerini, following the referendum in Crimea, which was very obvious what is going to happen, they are like more than 93% of the voters who cast their vote. They are now tilting towards the Russia. What is going to be the next? My question is, if Mr. Vladimir Putin is going to annex this strategic peninsula outright?
I think that if referendum turns out the way that Mr. Putin expects it to, that is a vote for secession of the Crimea from Ukraine to Russia, then he will proceed to finalize that process, which will mean the outright secession of or incorporation of Crimea into Russian territory. It will then become fully a part of Russia. It may, in principle, retain some autonomy, at least in theory, as some of the regions of the Russian Federation do, but that autonomy will be severely curtailed and won't really amount to anything very significant.
In recent months, the international community have observed the asserting role of Russia. Do you think the Russia is going to curtail itself after this development in Crimea, or it can go to some other region, or the states are naturally inclined to Kremlin?
Sure. My argument has all along been that what he's doing in Crimea has already been done in other places. He has been striving quietly but persistently to influence the domestic situations in a number of states that are now fully independent. In the South Caucasus, it's not just Georgia, but Armenia and Azerbaijan have all been receiving these kinds of pressures from Moscow. So too has Estonia, has Moldova, and Ukraine, which he thought he already had pretty much aligned with him. And now Crimea has become a focal point for what is really a quite widespread interest on the part of Putin to reassert Russian influence, if not direct control, over a number of the breakaway states from the former Soviet Union. So I think his next move, if he's successful with Crimea, will be to continue to apply pressure to Ukraine, particularly the eastern part of it, based on similar arguments of needing to protect Russians who are living in that region, and therefore he has full rights to intervene in Ukrainian affairs. I really wouldn't be surprised at all if that would be his next move.
Yeah, already there are certain voices in the same area as you mentioned in the eastern parts of the country that there should be
Right.
some sort of the referendum. My next question would be, President Barack Obama categorically made it clear that if Russia intervenes in Crimea, so it has certain price. So what
Right.
is the price next maybe Russia has to face?
Sure. He has, in cooperation, I'm sure, with the EU, made these sorts of statements, and I think they believe in their minds that there will be prices to be paid. But the question is just exactly what he and the EU mean. There's been a lot of talk about economic sanctions, which would be quite appropriate, but they need to be rather severe. The danger or the problem with that is that Putin is likely to respond equally, tit for tat. That is, economic sanctions he's going to simply turn around and impose now upon Europe and the United States. For Europe especially, in terms of the flow of natural gas and maybe oil that are important for the European economy and just basic livelihood, which is why Barack Obama should have already have announced publicly that the United States, will be releasing natural gas to Europe immediately, so as to provide a counterpoint to what is going to be one of Putin's main maneuvers in the face of economic sanctions. But I think there have to be lots of other things done, and I'm just afraid that we've lost opportunities not to go to war with Russia. I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, many believe there are
But
very slight chances of direct confrontation between
right.
Washington and...
But I think, I don't know. I doubt it, to be honest. That is, I don't think there will be anything that's going to lead to a fire war. But I would hope that I think the West is being put in an untenable situation. It cannot let this go by without a serious, severe response, short of war. But that may mean trying to maneuver or get Georgia and some of these other states peripheral to Russia to become full members of NATO as a way of forestalling Putin's potential future development, future activities. It may mean beefing up NATO's forces in places like Poland and the other border areas where there are already NATO participants. But as I started to say, there are a number of things we could have done if we had done them in the appropriate time. And now that those opportunities have been lost, we find ourselves every day having to face an increasingly difficult situation to which to respond.
Mr. Lazzerini, my last question would be, many experts in America, the political observer, are the critic of President Barack Obama. They have voiced that if Russia is not learned a lesson, then there would be a certain price for President Barack Obama politically, because it's an election year as well. So your take?
I think that's a fair observation. We never know what's likely to influence people's voting habits, but I don't think it will sit well with American voters to see us, the United States and its president, not being able to at least form some wall that will keep Putin from progressing any further. Everybody says that the Crimea has been lost. Okay, now the next question is, what about Ukraine or parts of Ukraine? If it spills over there, then I would say that Mr. Obama and Europe's leaders are in a very big quandary.
Edward Lazzerini, thank you very much for joining Voice of America. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate your
welcome.
presence.
I hope you find it useful.
Thanks.